Hi, I'm Xander Mittman. I am a product manager, and this is a presentation called Product Manager, Problem Manager. Meaning there are two sides of the product management role. One is the problem space, and one is the solution space or the product. A bit about me. I like to build stuff. That is the main thing that makes me love product management. Is ever since a kid, I loved playing with Legos. As an example, 2020, early COVID, took these trees down, and I said, "Hey, these great big old pine trees. What if I made a tree house for my kids?" And so 5 years later, I had a tree house and an in-ground trampoline and a climbing wall and all these things. And so I just love the idea of coming up with something, especially watching my kids and my family and my friends use this space every day, every week, always come up with new ideas about how it could be cooler and better and more fun. And I'm still working on it. I was just this past weekend uh, upgrading the treehouse. So I've started listing my house on Airbnb every once in a while. It's been a fun experience, and it's nice to have a little extra vacation money. I'm really, really proud of the guest favorite rating. People just love it, and I talk about the treehouse in the very second sentence of my page for my house. So some changes just in the last year. I took down the old tree. It's becoming a safety concern. My kids aren't really using it for climbing anymore. And then the tree house, I said, hey, this could be a cool like glamping experience for people who are up for it. So I added structural supports for safety, and more importantly, I added dual pane windows and making it essentially spider proof, so it's nice and cozy inside. So I just love making things better, and for me, diminishing returns is a very abstract concept. I just do what I love and what I see people enjoying. It's not just for me, of course. Okay, so in general, what is product management? Find a need and fill it. It's that simple. If anybody ever asks you what you do, find a need and fill it is a pretty good solution of what product management is. But fill it with a product and feature, meaning not a service, not a team of professionals who are there to help people, but actually something tangible that you can see and interact with. And then ideally, of course, it leads to profit. Now, as we know, not every company is seeing the profits that they want. We're seeing all kinds of layoffs happen around the world, driven by AI, COVID overhiring, all kinds of reasons. But ultimately, it's our job to make companies money. Assuming you're at a for-profit company, maybe you're a product manager at a nonprofit. But in any case, profit is usually often the role. Okay, so split it into two aspects. So you're not just filling with a product or feature, you really want to deeply understand the problem space. So find an unmet need that many people will pay a lot for. Now, that sounds simple, but obviously that is very challenging. How many people? How much will they pay for it? What are they doing now? How are they paying now with their money or their time? And what would make them switch? All very challenging concepts, but important. Okay, so activities related to product management, I think you can put it into 8 buckets. If you were to actually fill out a timesheet of where you spend your time every day, I would put it into 8 buckets. So the first one is the pure strategy. How big is the market? What's your total addressable market? Um, who are these users? What are the segments? Especially in a large, crowded space, this can be whole teams just focus on this part. So I like to go between the idea of a product manager at a startup where you're the founder and you're starting a company from nothing, or you're a product manager at a large 50-year-old enterprise software company that your market and you know where analysts see you in the market. You can be an individual contributor product manager in both of those situations, and I think these buckets still hold true. Meaning, maybe you're spending 1 or 0% of your time on the big picture market strategy. But product strategy from here on should definitely be hands on. So how do you capture the market share, or how do you keep your competitor at bay? And how does the product support that strategy? So OKRs, objectives, and key results are in that second bucket. Third is funding teams to attempt to solve their problem. Now the teams might be smaller, they might be more nimble, they might be able to create products faster with AI, but they're still teams, they're still human beings that have to make this thing happen. As far as I know, nobody's automated an entire company yet at scale. So the product manager is very much in the people realm of how do you lead a team through influence. Okay, so now you have a team in place. Okay, what should we do? So now design and build a product that we think will solve their problem. Think is exclamation or is underlined there because I think this is there are hypotheses, and whether they are written or they're just assumed, there is always an experiment in play. In play. So outcomes or outputs and outcomes. Many people use these terms interchangeably, or they'll talk about outcomes when they are really what they're really talking about is outputs. So as a product manager, please don't make that mistake. Please have a very clear distinction between an output and an outcome. I think a very simple definition is if everything can be controlled by within the four walls of your company, it's an output. An outcome is what is what are users saying about your product? Are they buying more? Are they referring their friends? Are you showing more profit on the bottom line? Um, I think it's very helpful to think about outputs and outcomes and what is the dotted line between them so that you can start to think about what are the levers that you can move to increase the outcomes that you're looking for. So challenging, but very worthwhile. Okay, and then the fifth bucket, ship and market and evangelize and sell and support the product feature, right? Your go-to-market exercises. So now you have a product, you want to tell the world about it, whether it's the next incremental version or a bug fix to a brand new product or a new product line. All of these have go-to-market functions. This is one of my favorite parts of product management is giving it to users and see their eyes light up when they use it, whether I'm directly involved in it or not. To me, it's like getting that personal one-to-one interaction with users is makes it so worthwhile for me. And then product market fit analysis. To what degree did we actually solve the problem that you set out to solve? And did you solve it? Should you go back to the board and realize, oh no, we can do it better, or let's go back to the drawing board and solve it a different way? Sometimes that's very necessary. Or it's like, yeah, we solved 80% of the problem, but we want to do the next iteration to solve 85%, 90%, 99% of their problem. And then at some point you say, yeah, we've done all we need to do. We're at diminishing returns. Let's focus on something else or shut the team down. Let's just put it in maintenance mode and go work on something else. Those are, I think, a very mature sign of a product manager is that you make the call that you think it's the right time to wind down your team, if that's in the best interest of the business. It can be disconcerting because then what are you going to do next? But still necessary. Okay, so product strategy, expected versus actual. How you allocate your resources is where the rubber meets the road. And this is a quote from Clayton Christensen. How will you measure your life? Also better known for the innovator's dilemma. Real strategy in companies and in our lives is created through hundreds of everyday decisions about where we spend our resources. So watch where your resources flow. If they're not supporting the strategy you've decided upon, then you're not implementing that strategy at all. Or very likely you never had a strategy in the first place. I've seen very many flavors of this, especially large companies, large teams. Who's responsible for the strategy? Who's accountable to the strategy? When it all fails miserably, what happens? These are all real world situations that are not always that much fun, but I think it's an area where product managers can play an influential role in asking the dumb question, like, well, what is our strategy? So a very simple definition I've heard for strategy is what game are we playing and how do we keep score? And again, those should show up in the product strategy OKRs world of let's have clear outcomes in mind before we even fund the teams, let alone create a product roadmap and all that stuff. So interesting, complex, nuanced part of product management. Okay, so if you wanted to be really thoughtful about, especially where do you want to grow your career, are you spending time in the area where you want to grow, is you could actually track your time, just like Clayton Christensen said, track your time and are you implementing your strategy? Part of your strategy is not just how do you solve customers' problems, but how do you become a better and better product manager? How can you stretch yourself and build your skills? So are you spending time in the areas where you need to grow? This would be a worthwhile exercise. I'll be honest, I have never done it successfully, but I do think about it in retrospect and say, oh, I wanted to become better at thinking about how do we fund teams and why. And I never took the initiative to speak with somebody to find out how much do the engineers get paid and how do we track profit and all those things. It's easy to focus on what you're already good at. But as a there's so much growth opportunity, especially if you see yourself on a track to become a CEO. You better know how much your employees cost, and what is your growth strategy. Okay, enough about that. Okay, so problem space, solution space. So this is where I spend 80 to 90% of my time is designing, building, shipping product. I am very much an execution product manager. I love getting to done. I love shaping requirements. I love working with teams to do this. Like the idea that, oh, now that I have AI, now I can finally just do it all by myself with an AI agent. To me, that is not fun. Like to me, working with teams of really talented individuals and building a shared vision and executing on it is, to me, product management will always be a team sport. Um, I'm eager to adopt AI tools for prototyping and accelerating this process, but not in terms of replacing super talented professionals. For one thing, great ideas come out of teamwork, not out of me just thinking long and hard. I rarely have the best idea that we end up implementing. So what I would hope for the AI revolution in product development, that the cycles happen faster, is that there is more time spent thinking about the link between outputs and outcomes and hypotheses, intended results. Because I think maybe, well, I don't know. I don't want to speak for many people, for every other product manager, but for myself, it's rare that I've had very specific goals for a one individual product release. It's usually thinking like, well, we know the problems we want to solve. We have a team to solve them. Let's build something. And yeah, customers love it. But again, tying it back to growth, adoption, certainly top line revenue or bottom line profit is very, very difficult in practice. So I would, stand before anybody and say this: we use the company's resources wisely, and the world, the company is in a better place because we now have product XYZ. Um, but showing causation between that work and business results, especially at a large company with an established customer base, can be very, very challenging. Um, but that should not stop teams from running small experiments. And certainly I would hope to do that as well. Because what you'll find is a big part of the project manager's role is running that experiment and setting up the instrumentation and doing the results. And I've met very few engineers who care about doing that. But as we run tighter cycles faster, there will be more questions and more opportunity to ask, well, why are we doing this, and did we get the benefit out of it, and should we do more or should we do less? So I think there's a lot of interesting room for innovation in the analytics and instrumentation area, and especially tying things together between all these disparate systems, between the customer support platform and the accounting platform, and um, all these systems to say where is the company making money and where could the company make more money? Because right now it's spread out over so many different places. It's hard for any given product manager to find the signal. My take on it. Okay, product market fit. I'm going to gloss over this. The example I like to use is, if you really want to think in the problem space, watch your users and new ideas will come from your users, not from you just thinking about it. Because ultimately, product manager's job is to change human behavior. To change human behavior, you first have to change human thought. And it's easier to work with people about what they already want to do and encourage more of that. So in this example, talk about early human civilization, people just discovering fire, the 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 Iron Age, and creating pots. Okay, well now you have pots, and you need something to stir with, so you create spoons. Now, what if you find out that it's actually like you're sitting around doing your user research, watching a family cook dinner, and you see the kids now playing on a pot with the spoons, and you realize, wow, this is actually like a new thing. We have drums and instruments. That could be a whole new market, right? You're looking for growth opportunities. So you don't want to be just the spoon company for cooking. You want to be a music company. So now you have to think about it as a different business. So it's the same tool, two different jobs. So always try to have some of a bit of abstract thinking as a product manager, and don't get too siloed with any given one thing, because the company's always looking for what is the next idea, and one of the things that I absolutely love doing in my job is getting out of the office, getting to know users on an individual basis, uh, watching them do their job, or just take them out for coffee and hear their view of the world. What other tools are they using? Actually watching them do things. And there's no substitute for doing direct, hands-on, one-to-one user research yourself, not relying on just other people. Of course, get help wherever you can find it, but do not outsource 100% of your user research. Is my advice. Okay, advocate for your impact. Assume nobody likes you, trusts you, or respects you. Always have a healthy bit of paranoia about what good are you doing for the company, and that you need to market yourself. I think we've seen how many layoffs there are. Um, how do you make sure you're at the bottom list of an individual that somebody would want to cut, and likewise the value of your team? How do you make sure that your team, your product area, is not the one to be cut? Um, Easier said than done. Companies are complex, um, but don't assume anybody knows what you do. Okay, so now going back to the solution space. So this is where have developed very lightweight but robust and scalable systems for teams. So again, focus on a team. Let's say somewhere between 5 and 10 software developers, a UX designer. Um, I always think about vertically and horizontally. So vertically, very thorough and conscientious about stack ranking epics and stack ranking user stories within epics. Um, it does get a little, well, I should say, PRDs can be helpful from a prioritization standpoint, but they are also a storytelling tool. So I often go back and forth between telling it in logical order so that I can then explain it to a marketer who then has to build a positioning statement around the product, and solution engineers who actually have to demo it and tell the story while they're demoing. So I'm thinking about all my different stakeholders when I'm creating the product strategy and functional specifications, the PRDs. But then also have to work, obviously, with engineers who say, well, I need something you can actually, what is it that I am building? Um, but my tools are simple: spreadsheets, documents, and Miro boards is pretty much all I need in terms of tooling. And I can work with any project management system, whether it be Jira or something else. Um, so philosophy, minimum delightful product. I love this quote from David Schwartz. Uh, Want to deliver on time? Reduce the scope, not the quality. I think it's very challenging. Very challenging to keep the scope small. I'm relatively good at it, but always realize when I'm done, I'm like, well, I could have cut another 10% or 20% to get to market uh, some number of days or weeks or months sooner. So I'm always thinking, how do you get it into a customer's hands as soon as humanly possible, whether it be a pilot, a beta, a V1, knowing a V2 is coming, that kind of thing. So PRDs, functional specs. I've seen various discussions on who even writes PRDs anymore, or now that we have AI, can't you just can't the AI create the PRD? And I personally have not delved too much into that, because for me, I'm almost always starting with a somewhat blank sheet of paper saying, well, I have a general idea of what the problem is. Let's work on the solution. And then you work on the solution a little bit and then realize you understand the problem quite as well as you wanted to. So to me, it's a very much an iterative, collaborative exercise where I am crafting it in collaboration with the team. So I'm usually, 99% of hands-on keyboard with it versus other people, but it's definitely, it's a conversation that happens with stakeholders, with customers, with end users, engineers, UX designers, and I'm always happy to have it as an artifact. Um, but it ends up somewhere in the squishy world between storytelling and testable acceptance criteria. Um, but generally, my teams seem to find this format workable. Um, but it's also very flexible. So based on how the team wants to work, it can flex a variety of different ways. I also don't have a PRD for all work that the team does. It's more for like large open-ended um, epics or initiatives. So I mean, ultimately, what customers get is the functional code and the public doc. So what feeds into that is the PRD the UX specs labels, which is part of UX. Um, but so I really like this part. I am accountable to customer success. Customers have no idea the process that went into the product, the trade-offs that were made. All they know is they have a problem and there's this new software. Do they know about it? Is it easy for them to use? Easy for them to does it solve their problem? Do they want to tell their friends about it? That is This is my favorite part, is actually seeing it work in the wild with users and getting their feedback. If they don't care about it, some major miss happens somewhere early on. Usually that's not the case. It's usually a question of adoption and things like that. But it's a never ending cycle, and I never run out of ideas. I only run out of time. Um, but product manager is a great career. So especially if you're an early career individual contributor, product manager, I hope this is helpful for you, or somebody who's considering getting into product management. Um, it is very simple and very complex at the same time. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you on LinkedIn. Thanks a lot.